Hi, it's Clever Cleveland here to introduce and lead you through the Rainbow Lab. First thing I'd like you to do with your team is read page 1. Let's stick to page 1 only, and as you're reading, if there's anything that you're not sure of, you could either highlight it or put a little question mark. I encourage you to either take turns reading in your team or let the person who feels most comfortable reading out loud read the entire document. Pause this so that you have a chance to look it over. As you got to see in the introduction, the purpose is to practice safe use of lab materials and also following directions. You'll notice in our safety rules here, it indicates that goggles must be worn. I do let students use it as an option since the chemicals that we're using are not an extreme danger. But if you want to practice what a real scientist would do, you may wear them. It's really important. Backpacks, books, binders, everything is kept on the shelf underneath your chair. And let's put water bottles on the counter on the side. Then they're not going to get knocked over or get in the way. Another tip here is when mixing chemicals, remember to avoid cross-contamination by cleaning your equipment every time you use a new chemical. I encourage you to use the sink to rinse out materials. And when you're using your pipette or your droppers, make sure that the one in the red is not used in the blue, etc., because that will change your results. Another big one, always carry your lab equipment with 2 hands. I know that you're going to need 3 of these beakers. And some of us have large hands and you could carry all 3, but it's just not a safe way to move around supplies. So always use both hands. And a big one is when we're using our supplies, this test tube rack can easily fall. So when you're actually transporting this back to your desk, please make sure you're using a larger bucket, and then you can take it out once you get to your desk. Some of the objectives. You've already been practicing measuring volume with a graduated cylinder, and today you'll be continuing to do that live. Practice using the metric system. If we're using a graduated cylinder to measure volume, what is the unit? It is milliliters, and you would want to put that next to any of your numbers using a lowercase m and a capital L. Testing precision and your ability to follow directions. Please, let's work together as a team, but also help each other to make sure that our measurements are precise. And practicing our lab safety procedures. Our materials are all mentioned here. Sometimes you might just call this a dropper, but it is technically a pipette. And what's another material here that you might not be familiar with? The test tube rack I had shown you. Another supply I added in for my students is magnifying glass, because some of these are tough to see, especially when you're at a 10 milliliter graduated cylinder size. We don't have aprons. What I do suggest is if you have some kind of a long shirt, you roll up your sleeves. There's no questions on that. You guys will be able to proceed fairly easily if you work together in your team of 4, going step by step. For my students, I already have the test tubes labeled, so you can cross out number 1. And since our classroom, we're so lucky to every table has their own sink, number 2 and 3 are not needed because you could just go to the sink and rinse when you need it. From there, as a team, you will be measuring, again, as precisely as you can. I encourage people to take turns and also double check the measurement before you pour it into the test tube. When you are following along here, you'll see the direction of swirl, and that looks like this. So you kind of just move your wrist around and it won't splash up. Other than that, I think you guys got this. Make sure that you are completing your lab sheet when you're all done, and that will include taking measurements of what you ended up with at the end. And one other thing, please take a picture to post to our Schoology page, and we'll check out results tomorrow. Enjoy, be careful, and make the rainbow.